Strauss's term as Eighth Chair completed at the end of June 1958. Eisenhower wanted to reappoint him, but Strauss feared the Senate would reject or at least subject him to ferocious questioning. Besides the Oppenheimer affair, he had clashed with Senate Democrats on several major issues, including his autocratic nature as Eighth Chair and his secretive handling of the Dixon-Yates contract. Indeed, by this time Strauss had garnered the reputation, as a Time magazine profile put it, of being one of the nation's ablest and thorniest public figures. Eisenhower offered him the post of White House Chief of Staff to replace Sherman Adams, but Strauss did not think that it would suit him. Eisenhower also asked if Strauss would consider succeeding John Foster Dulles, who was ill, as Secretary of State, but Strauss did not want to preempt Undersecretary Christian Herter, who was a good friend. Finally, Eisenhower proposed that Strauss become Secretary of Commerce, which Strauss accepted. With the 1958 United States Senate elections imminent, Eisenhower announced the nomination on October 24. Strauss took office via a recess appointment, effective November 13, 1958. However, Senate opposition to this appointment was as strong as to a renewed eighth term. This was surprising, given the high level of experience Strauss had, the relative lack of prominence of the Commerce post compared to some other cabinet positions, and the tradition of the Senate deferring to presidents to choose the cabinet heads they wanted. Indeed, at the time the previous 13 nominees for this cabinet position won Senate confirmation in an average of 8 days, due to a long-running feud between the two. Senator Clinton Anderson took up the cause to make sure that Strauss would not be confirmed by the Senate. Anderson found an ally in Senator Gully W. McGee on the Senate Commerce Committee, which had jurisdiction over Strauss's confirmation. During and after the Senate hearings, McGee charged Strauss with a brazen attempt to hoodwink the committee. Strauss also overstated the importance of his role in the development of the H-bomb, implying that he had convinced Truman to support it. Truman was annoyed by this, and sent a letter to Anderson undermining Strauss's claim, a letter that Anderson promptly leaked to the press. Strauss attempted to reach Truman through an intermediary to rescue the situation, but was rebuffed and felt bitter at the lack of support. A group of scientists who were still upset over the role Strauss had played in the Oppenheimer hearings lobbied against confirmation, playing upon their target's name pronunciation by calling themselves the Last Strauss Committee. After 16 days of hearings, the Senate Commerce Committee recommended Strauss's confirmation to the full Senate by a vote of 9-8. By now the struggle was in the forefront of the national political news, with a Time cover story calling it of the biggest, bitterest, and in many ways most unseemly confirmation fights in Senate history. In preparation for the floor debate on the nomination, the Democratic majority's main argument against the nomination was that Strauss's statements before the committee included semi-truths and outright falsehoods, and that under tough questioning Strauss tended towards ambiguous responses and engaging in petty arguments. Despite an overwhelming Democratic majority, the 86th United States Congress was not able to accomplish much of its agenda since the president had immense popularity and a veto pen. With the 1960 elections approaching, congressional Democrats looked for issues on which they could flex their institutional strength in opposition to Eisenhower. On June 19, 1959, just after midnight, the Strauss nomination failed by a vote 46-49. Voting for Strauss were 15 Democrats and 31 Republicans. Voting against him were 47 Democrats and 2 Republicans. At the time, it marked only the 8th instance in U.S. history where a cabinet appointee had failed to be confirmed by the Senate. And it was the first time since 1925. The next such instance would not take place until 1989. Eisenhower, who had invested both personal and professional capital in the nomination, spoke of the Senate action in bitter terms, saying that, "I am losing a truly valuable associate in the business of government. It is the American people who are the losers through this sad episode." Strauss resigned from his recess appointment as Commerce Secretary on June 23.